Welcome to the Speaking Podcast, episode number 58. And our guest today is in the USA, Joanna Mercado Peters. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Roy. It's my pleasure to be in here with you and having this opportunity to talk with your community and your audience.
Perfect. So basically, typically what I do is I don't have any scripts or anything. I want you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay. So hello, I'm super happy to be here. I am originally from Colombia and I moved to the United States in 2012. I've been a trainer, speaker, and a coach for more than 15 years. I have a background in industrial engineer, and then I went to have an MBA. And from there, I started my career as a speaker, influencer, leadership coach with Fortune 500 companies. So I had the pleasure to work in 4 continents, 15 countries around the world with companies like Pepsi and Goodyear, giving them some training, leadership coaching, and speaking to inspire and motivate both the teams and the leaders on each of the facilities. I last year around April, May, I decided that I had enough from corporate America and that I want to create a bigger impact in the world and have a better way to reach out to more people, to apply all those big concepts and investments that I learned on big companies and bring those concepts and processes and tools to more people so we all could spiral up. I'm happily married and we just celebrate our anniversary on lockdown last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And in January, my 7-year-old nephew came to live with us. So we are also instant parents. So now we are also learning how to be parents of a 7-year-old. So that is in a nutshell who I am.
Excellent. So where we'll start off is something that I'm interested in, because you mentioned that you've worked in corporate for the likes of Pepsi, for both like kind of employees and leaders. So you might tell us how you organized that and what it entailed.
Yes. So one of my main roles and responsibilities was helping with the cultural transformation and empowering of the facilities and the teams. So what it is there is something broken with how some business work, and that is business are concentrated on the profit, the productivity, and maybe some of them, the more advanced ones, are concentrated on the processes. And something that is very common across the board is that majority of them are missing the biggest part, and is the human part, the resource part, the how we give the tools and empower and motivate and inspire each employee to actually be the best version of themselves, to have that ownership of what they are doing. And my role was going into, from the leadership point, teach those managers on those places how to become leaders. That is one of the first big gaps, and is that maybe 15 years ago, 25 years ago, we started using the word leader everywhere. So overnight, everybody become a leader. And it is a huge difference between what a leader is and what a manager is. So the first part that I did with them was teach those managers the difference and then help them to go through the bridge to actually become leaders. And then in that journey, help them and their teams to start developing the skills and the teamwork and the empowering to actually create extraordinary results for the company, but also for the culture and the well-being of each associate and each employee.
Excellent. Very nice. Very nice. And then I read as well that you're actually an author.
I am an author. I wrote 2 books last year. I had the opportunity, I was actually in a speaking process January of last year. And it was super interesting how they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Yeah. So we were there, and Roy, all the stars aligned. We start just in the evenings after long days of work, we start talking about our own stories. And believe it or not, that was the first training that 65% of the people were females. So there was a lot of female stories. And then we all start joking about like how cool would be that we pull all those stories together. And then one of the participants was like, well, I'm a book editor. And then the other one was like, oh, well, I have a publishing business. And like that, within a week, we decided to start this journey of writing our book. And we published our first book in in March. And that one is about igniting women as their female power and how women can just nourish and flourish in this world in all the aspects of their life, in their career, in their love, in their financial, and in their self-growth. And after that, we wrote another one that was about leadership on females. Because one of the things that I'm very passionate is how I mix the two things. So two of the things that I am, and is the leadership part and then the female. And you are aware of this, like all the story and all the background that we have about leadership is based on the last 100 years, 120 years. And at that time and during those decades, mainly the leaders were males. So a lot of the structure of how to be a leader, a lot of the concepts about leadership were designed for the leaders that were in that moment leaders, that were males, because 40, 50, 60, 80 years ago, the females were more into the leadership in their houses, taking care of their family. So now that we are exploring on these equally, females getting to be leaders and working, I am actually very passionate on how we can understand that and start leading from our strengths, understanding that the leadership style of you guys and us is different. Doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It just means that if we as females try to lead like you guys, we are going to always hit a barrier because we are not guys. Yeah. So that second book is a little bit about that, igniting the female leadership inside you.
Oh, very nice. And yeah, I suppose it's interesting at the moment because there's a lot of actually leaders of countries that are female and they're doing very well. So New Zealand and Finland and Germany. So yeah, it's interesting times. So you do workshops as well, yes?
Yes.
So you might tell us more about that.
So on the workshops, so two of the things that I'm more passionate about is making sure that I can add a lot of value to people that I'm interacting with, and then I can help them with some kind of change or transformation. So on the workshops that I have are to, like I was telling you before, like all these tools and concepts that I was exposed to and trained in these big corporations, Fortune 500 companies, corporations, those tools that they use to be successful and grow. What I do is I take those concepts down into something that either individuals or small, medium-sized companies can actually implement and use and get the benefit from them without having to invest the resources, the time, and the money that actually these Fortune 500 companies do. Like if you do the scale, one of the things that differentiate is that because of their size, they have a lot more capacity and capability to grow and to invest on these things. And my workshops are designed to go from that into how we as individuals and teams and small and medium-sized companies can have the same results and use the same techniques without having to pay the learning curve. That is one that I really enjoy facilitating, and is how to have it all. And actually right now I'm in the process to launch a new version of that one. And I don't know, I was wondering, like to know from you is, have you ever thought about the possibility of having it all? And like, what is your takeaway there? What do you think about when I say, let's gonna have it all? Like, it's possible, it's not possible?
As in general, like if you can have it all what you want in life.
Yeah.
For me, I believe that it's all about a journey. That if we think that we have, say, this type of car, this type of house, that we've reached the point, and it's not about that. It's about how we're actually achieving what we're doing, and to be present and to be happy as we're going along. And I have seen people, being very successful, and they have kind of sacrificed their family. They've sacrificed everything to get this, and they can be multimillionaires and miserable. So it's not about having it all. I think it's about evolving and changing. So like if you want to, okay, I want to write. Now my thing that I want to do this year, I want to start painting. I did painting when I was younger, and I was good at it, but they cut it out of the school. So I said, okay, I want to start painting again, and just being creative and just being present daily. And like you mentioned, about the 7-year-old child. Like my son is 6, and I just see that with a child. He doesn't know what he's doing tomorrow. I ask him, what did you do yesterday? He doesn't know. He knows what he's doing now, and he's happy, and he's just constantly happy. And I think we need to learn from children to be living in the moment. I mean, you need to kind of think about down the future. You can't just live a hairy fairy life that's not worrying about income and everything, because that's not reality. You have to plan, but you also have to be present. And I think that's the way it should be.
I really love that, and I totally agree with you. And one of the things that I work on that workshop is that concept of having it all, I think that is misused and is misleading, because I don't think that having it all mean the same for all of us. So I think that, and I agree with you, when people just start with their career and then they go home and then their kids don't even talk to them, or they think that because they are at home they cannot have their career. And I think that chasing of having it all based on what society tells us that having it all is the big gap for the issue that we have. I think that having it all, part of having it all, is that each of us will, give me 1 second. No more. I am recording something. I hope that you can cut that and fix it.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay, where we were. One of the things that having it all means is that depending on who you are, where you are in life, having it all means something different. And you put it beautifully when you talk about kids. Like if you ask your son or my nephew, what is having it all? For them, having it all is being able to play and watch a movie and go and play soccer outside. And at the end of the day, if you ask them and they did that, they are like, I have it all today.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then if you ask me, then I will say, well, for me, having it all is having a wonderful relationship with my husband and being able to go and speak on other countries. So I think that the process of having it all is stop trying to put out a standard where society and the media try to move us all, and then start going inwards and asking the question what it means having it all for me. Not for Roy, not for Paul, not for John, for me. Yeah. And then go from there.
Exactly. And when you're doing these workshops, is it like a full day, or is it a few days or a couple of hours? How long do they last?
They are flexible. So the minimum that I do is 4 hours, that are like the more basic ones that are just about having some foundation. I am a big believer of building up success. And so I believe that if we try to do it all at once, what happens is our brain, and this is part of what I work when I was working in corporate America, is our brain can take just so much at once, especially when it's all new concepts. So based on the baseline of the client or the team, then we start deciding how long the workshops are, to make sure that the value and the aha moment happen. Also, with your podcast, you know this, the span of control and attention on a human it's no more than 90 minutes. That is one of the reasons why the college classes are just 90 minutes, because after that you just start going down. So they go from 4 hours into 3-4 days, depending on how deep they are. Like some of the ones that are more deep into the vision and the strategy and the goal settings need 3-4 days, so you can go into, like you were saying, the journey to go into the final result.
Yeah, no, and like sometimes I suppose it all depends on the person, because sometimes they want to just delve into everything. They want to read all the books, they want to do all the courses and everything, and then they become overwhelmed because they're beating themselves up instead of just kind of letting it flow.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. And I think that one of the gaps that we have and that we all are challenged to overcome right now is we have so much information available right now on the internet, with videos, with information, that is very easy to become a knowledge junkie, that you just want to absorb. But the challenge with that is, yeah, you can absorb, but if you don't give your brain time to actually process that and go out with your own application of what you learn, then you become just a library with a lot of knowledge inside the boxes of your brain, but you are actually not using that. You are actually not implementing that to actually change your life or make the change or the transformation that you want. Because like if you are learning something, Roy, is because you want to either, why you learn something new?
Just being creative. I find that I'm way more creative when I'm doing different things.
Absolutely. So it's on a search and a journey to be more creative, to be better, and then to get some solutions. So and I'm the same. So I think that everybody learns trying to look for something, like in contribution, that being more creative, being better at something, learning something new. But when we don't leave the time to actually process that, then we never have the opportunity to actually go and execute. Like, this is like if you were learning something but never had time to actually go and be creative. Like, you have all these ideas of creative things to do, but you never go and do them.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's some people, they go to events and courses and they'll go again the next year and the next year, and they're not really implementing what they do. Like for me, for example, I read a lot of books, and it can be anything from 20 to 100 a year. But what I do is I make notes and then I action it, so that I'm making sure that what I've read, I'm implementing it, or if there's something to buy another book or just to do something, I make sure that I'm working on it. That way I'm getting the most out of it.
Absolutely. Hey, just for curiosity, what is your favorite book so far?
I like Awareness by Anthony de Mello, I think it's.
De Mello, Awareness,
Yeah,
Anthony de Mello.
Yeah, it's just kind of deep. And he recommended, because I reread it only yesterday. I had read it about 2 years ago, and good books that I like, I'll reread. And he mentioned about schooling, that there was some guy that had a schooling system where they weren't making the children learn. And I've taken that down, because my son is copying, it's like the Finnish system in Poland, where they're kind of, it's a creative school. They don't give them homework, they don't make them, they just let them kind of go to the class if you want to. And I've ordered that book next now, so that I can just see how he's done it and why people were trying to learn from him, and see, can I actually help the school in something that they're missing out on, that they can actually incorporate into it.
Oh, that's fascinating. And it's also fascinating how you're making the connection between a book like the one from Anthony de Mello on awareness, and then how you can immediately see how you can implement that into the well-being and the journey with your son. That is very exciting.
Yeah. And because we have a mutual friend, Ambika, who's actually, she's been on the podcast as and also done a lot of meditation. So a very good friend of mine. But she mentioned, like with the Business Speaking Academy, that you've been involved in that. Yes, so you might tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, the Business Academy is an amazing 5-day training for speakers. And what it does is it give you the, I call it the hardware. So it give you the background and the tools for you to take your speaking level to the next level. And it is 5 days. It's very intense. You're working with the main trainer, the main coach, and then each group had an additional coach to do more specific in smaller groups coaching. And it's all about practicing your speaking skills. So how you engage with the audience, how you make sure that you have 98% of the audience engaged. One of the things that happen and is that a lot of speakers are concentrate only on the speaking the way that they are as humans, but the reality is, in average, we have 3 kinds of learners and personalities, for the say like that. So if you see all of us, you are going to be on 1/3 of the population. I'm going to be on another third. So what the Speaking Academy teaches is how you can realize what third are you on, and then how you can go into the other 2/3, even if you are not in that third, to be able to go and reach out and engage and deliver your message to people that learn and perceive the world different than you. Um, so it is about getting as a speaker into the next level, and how you can create speeches and presentations that are memorable, and that people that listening to you will not forget your message and will not forget you on the stage.
And like, because I've been at a few of them Mind Valley events, so I would have seen prior to and then at the end the competition, and it's impressive the level. Like, they're as good as you see at any level. They are just, and people that were shaking prior to that were on stage, and you're just kind of in awe of them at the level that they've accomplished in 5 days. It's incredible.
I will tell you a brief story of a girl on one of the trainings. The first day of the Speaking Academy, she came into the stage, completely froze, like ice, was not able to move, was not able to talk, and started crying. That was her first trial on the stage. And day 5, she was moving all over the stage, making everybody laugh. Like, I was crying with her stories of laugh. Like, I was laughing so hard that my stomach was hurting. I had tears. And it's what you were saying, like, we had some guests that night. And then when we were telling that she was crying for that, they were like, no, she was not. She's been doing this forever. And we were like, no. So yeah, it is that magic of tune in and finding the way to speak and the way to share your message from who you are, instead of just doing it the robotic way, following a standard from outside. So it's just being able to take the tools and find a way to just speak from your heart and speak from your own memories and your own stories. And I think that is what makes a Speaking Academy such an amazing program for people that is working on improving their speaking journey and being a better speaker.
Yeah. Like, it's a pity I didn't kind of do it that way. I did it the slower route with the Toastmasters, and because I've seen you can get to the same, but it takes a long time doing it, the Toastmaster route. But no, there's a lot, like I know a lot of people that have done it, the Speaking Academy, and they couldn't say higher praise of it. Like, they all loved it.
Yeah. And I'm actually also in Toastmasters, because one of the things that you learn, or I learn, and that I also teach in my classes and in my coaching, is what will happen if you have this amazing, beautiful car or boat, and then you buy it and then you put it on the garage and then you never drive it because you don't want it to get dirty, you don't want it to be scratched, so you just leave it there. After a year, the car is broken. I will actually tell you a story that happened to me in my car. Now that I'm working from home in my own business, I am not driving that much. And last week we were going to go out for groceries, and I tried to start the car, and I'm like, what the heck? The battery was dead. Because I didn't knew this, but you have to drive the car at least for 30 minutes within some time for the battery to recharge. And it is the same with the speaking. So you can do the training, you can do, but if you are not constantly practicing and getting yourself exposed and getting yourself out there, then you start losing what you gain. So I'm also a part of Toastmasters and have fun practicing there. But I can see how with Toastmasters takes a lot more time, because in Toastmasters you are only meeting 1 hour per week versus this that is like 5 days intensive, all day long, just doing it.
And they're long days as well, because they're not like 8-hour days. They kind of, sometimes they're going on till 12 o'clock or something like that, yeah?
They are intense days, and it goes into building up what you are learning every day. And the purpose of that is making sure that you are having that breakthrough and that aha moment of seeing not only your own progress, but something that is very funny. And I see this also in my coaching for WildFeed, and in my coaching for my leadership clients. And is every time that you are in a group coaching or in a group training, you are very good seeing the progress and the amazing results on everybody else. So it's amazing. It's so funny, but happen every time. Like people, like I already know, like in my coaching, I already know around which week, like around week 6, I ask, how many of you think that everybody else is having a huge progress and improvement? And everybody's like, and then you are like, and how many of you think that you are the only one that is not making progress? And then almost 80% of them raise their hand. It's like ridiculous, like ridiculous. And with the speaker academy, it happened the same, but the coaching happened the same. But part of that coaching process is that when you start facing those blind spots, it's easier for you to say, okay, I don't feel like I'm making progress, but I'm seeing the evidence that I am making progress. And yeah, it is a fun way to improve yourself and challenge yourself to the next level.
I think we're on worst critic, because I remember that as well. Like I'd often thought, oh my God, this is a terrible speech. And later people be coming up saying it's very good, but I always record it. I don't know how many I've done at this stage now, maybe 60 or 80 different speeches, but at up to maybe 50, I was recording every single one. And then I'd look at it and I go, yeah, it wasn't that bad. But at the time I thought, oh my God, I was just thinking it was really bad. And later, especially when people would be giving you nice feedback comments, like in Toastmasters tend to do that, and or they give you advice on how to improve, but you'd realize that no, I'm actually beating myself up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is that sweet balance. I think that in one is we need to realize that we cannot beat ourselves and that we are our worst critics, like you were saying. But the other one that I will applaud you to do, and then not a lot of speakers do that, and that is a best practice, what you just said, is always record yourself.
Yeah.
Because one thing that happened with us as speakers is we are on the stage, and as soon as we are on a stage, we get this adrenaline rush, and there is something that is called the speaker stage. Because when you are on the stage, you are like almost in flow. Like I compare it like when you are surfing or I snowboard, and I feel the same when I'm snowboarding. Is you are like in a capsule of time dimension, is weird. And then when you finish the speech, all that adrenaline go down. So a lot of time, if you don't record yourself, you are going to miss two things: the things that you can improve, but also the things that you did that were brilliant, that everybody loved, and then you are not even conscious or aware or remember them because you were such in a flow that you just did it and you were like, "Oh, this worked." So I applaud you for recording yourself. I think that is a best practice on improving. But on the other one that we teach, that I teach, and that in Speak Academy that teach is, one of my mentors says, if you leave a stage 3 times in a row feeling that you did it perfect, you need to worry about your worry, because is that thinking of, oh, I should do this better, what keeps us improving. So if 3 or 4 times we just get out of stage and like, I am the best, this was perfect, then we are going to start planning ourselves to how to be even better. So yeah, I think that you're having that balance very well on the continuous improvement, but still realizing that you are being harder on yourself, that what really is true.
And like, just going back, as you know, when you were talking about the car and that, you know, that you need to keep practicing. I remember a couple of years ago, one of the guys, he had won the Polish speaking championship, and you know, so he felt like that cocky and thought he was grand, and he took a year off. And he was telling me that when he came back, he was expecting that he'd be great, and he said it was like starting again. And I remember him telling me that, and I was always in the Toastmaster. If nobody wanted to speak, I would speak. If somebody cancelled 5 minutes beforehand and say, I'm too nervous, I'd say, okay, I'll speak. Any opportunity, I'd say, okay, I'm ready for it. And then I decided, okay, I'm after, because I got into the district final for the humorous speech. And, you know, so I said, okay, I'll try to get the people, because I formed a club, I want them to speak more. And I just was doing evaluation. I was the Toastmaster, but I wasn't speaking for a good few months, which never happened. And when I decided to do a speech, I was nervous again. And I was like, whoa, you know, it was like, so it's recently, in the last month, I think I've probably done about 8 speeches because of that. It just kind of gave me a slap. Okay, don't let that happen, you know, because no matter, I'm like nearly 3.5 years now in Toastmaster, and, you know, you can't get complacent. It's like, yeah, if you don't sharpen the saw, you're not going to cut the tree down, so.
One of the favorite movies to illustrate that we actually use on the speaking training is Karate Kid. Do you remember Karate Kid?
Of course.
With the wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. It's like, if you stop waxing the car, then when you need to fight, you are not going to remember how to move. So that wax on, wax off is just that as a speakers, part of, especially if it's something that we are passionate about or is part of our job, is training for it is a big part of how we get better. I know that there are some speakers, like you were saying, that the only time that they speak is when they are in front of a big audience. And that doesn't happen every week. And I think that take away the opportunity to be even better, because if you are constantly practicing and practicing your stories, practicing your delivery, then when you are on the audience, you are like on the fine-tuned portion of you as a speaker.
No, exactly. And like, because especially now, there's a lot of opportunities to be on different Toastmasters meeting online. And like, there's always someone that brings something different to the table, whether it's the grammarian or an evaluator. You're constantly learning, and they could say, oh, you're doing this, or perhaps you can do such and such thing. You can improve by being there. So if you're not there, how can you become better?
And one thing now that you are talking about online with all this situation, one thing that I will share with your community and your audience is the huge opportunity that we have right now to get comfortable being online speakers. Like, I will tell you from my perspective with Toastmasters in Ohio here, you will not believe how many people, how many contestants and how many speakers for the conference cancel because they were not comfortable speaking online. So the message there is, if you are a speaker and if you are trying to grow your career, this is the time to push through your comfort zone. If you don't feel comfortable with a camera and audio, and you prefer the live audience, Yeah, I prefer the live audience too. But the speakers that are able to develop the online skills are going to have a huge advantage versus the ones that want to just stay with the live, because the world is moving more and more into the online, and it is a different, I would say, I don't know if you agree with me, but it's a different animal. It is different when you speak online than when you speak and have the energy from the audience. So it
And like, there's one thing, because I on last Saturday I was in the division, but I didn't get anywhere in it for the international speech competition. But what was strange is they don't allow the cameras, so you only see the timer. So that is strange in itself, because if you're doing a speech, it's like encouragement. When you make someone laugh, or you make them sad, or you just see an emotion, and you don't see that anymore. And if like this time, because previously a timer was reacting, I could see a timer laughing, but this time the timer was probably too panicky to make sure he didn't make a mistake with the timing, so he wasn't even. And I saw it not just with my speech but with the others, so you're getting zero reaction, and you have to continue on. And yeah, it's a different animal, as you say. And yeah, it's yeah.
And what I will say is, it's an opportunity for all of us to practice and see how comfortable or uncomfortable we feel with that. And I love what you were saying before, that you are ready to go. Like, somebody cannot come, you are ready. We call that the no problem mentality. And I think that no problem mentality needs to be applicable now. It's like, okay, this is not what I'm used to it, but no problem. I will keep going and figure out. So yeah, absolutely.
And I even done it. I remember doing it because I had done it a few times in, excuse me, in English. And I had done some Polish speeches. I'm not fluent in Polish, but I'd done humor speech and everything. And I said, that's something I want to do. I want to be able to do a Polish speech without any preparation. And I did that as well. And it worked out perfect. You know, I was able to do it. And, you know, I think you have to say, okay, what's the next step that I can actually push myself, instead of getting complacent and just saying, I'm comfortable at this level.
And I completely agree with you. I think that is what we were talking before, on having that nice balance between keep that. And that is something that I teach my clients on, the concept of continuous improvement. So keep driving on what else I can do to make it even better. And also balance that with not being our worst critic and beat ourselves and like every time say, oh, I suck and this is horrible. And so how you balance that to keep improving and keep making things even better, and still be able to also see your own progress and celebrate your own progress and be proud of what you are, where you are and where you are coming from.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, I'm not sure where I heard it, but I remember somebody had said is, like, when you get all this feedback, you get some fantastic comments, to have a book or have it somewhere on your phone where you've got the pot, so that just even prior to going out and speech, you can look at that. Or if, like, we all have I remember one time doing a competition, an evaluation competition, won the club level, got into area, and just went blank. I was on stage and all I was doing was just trying to wait for the time to come. And it's never happened me in an evaluation. And it was like, so I made sure that do more evaluations, that never happens again. So.
That's super funny. And it's true, is having that process. The other thing that is interesting, I was actually seeing a behind the scenes of Simon Sinek. Mm-hmm. And there is something that, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but power moves before you go on stage. And that is just like something that is very unique of you, that will build up your energy, and like it will make your blood pump to just go on a stage with the right energy and the right attitude. And I was seeing a backstage from Simon Sinek, and here he was right before he went to the stage. He did his power move. He just flip around and jump and clap his feet on the air on the side. And it was so funny to see that those are things that we don't see, because when we see him, he's already walking very nice and very perfectly done. And it was very nice for me to see that what you wax on, wax off. Even now that he's charging $200,000 per talk, he's still taking the time to prepare his state, in his stage state and just do his rituals to make sure that he can deliver the best possible way.
Exactly. And like, I don't think people realize how important that is, because there was one time I had a competition and the Polish part was first. And when I'm listening to like the Polish, I really have to kind of concentrate, and it's like sucks the energy out of me. So I was sitting there for maybe an hour or whatever. And then I was the first person up for the English speaking, and my energy was gone. And I was like, no. So the next time I was in the camp, I made sure that I was doing my, and it was a huge difference. So like, I even know, like if I have, I just even just make sure that I'm standing up, just breathing, and just kind of just, just because if you're just sitting there and then you just go up, no, you need to have, but practice to get something that works for you. Because like you heard, like Tony Robbins was saying, he'd be slapping his hand. I heard he actually injured his hands because he's slapping them so hard. He has to start kind of take it easy on that. But practice and find something that works for you, because there's all different techniques. There's crossing and there's kind of stamping your heels and different things, but it makes a huge difference.
I completely agree with you, and I think that you gave your community a great advice, and is part of the exploration of try different things and see how you feel on the stage. Like jump and go, scream and go, dance and go. The other one that is very useful sometimes is having a playlist of like 3 or 4 of your favorite songs in the world, and 10 or 15 minutes before you go to stage, just put the music on and just let the music take your vibration to that level of joy and happiness, and then go to stage. So I mean, that one is another one that I sometimes use.
That's one I haven't tried, but that's a good idea, because there is songs that give you that energy feeling. So that's good to have your Spotify, because everybody has their phone with them, and just plug in your earphones prior to going on stage. Nice, I like that one. And so you're doing the coaching as well. You mentioned the Wild Fit. So with other coaching and the Wild Fit, like when you're doing one-on-one, what kind of process do you work on to make sure that you're connecting with the person? Because everybody's got their own personalities.
So one of the first things that I work on is making sure that my clients had clear their why. And the first couple of sessions, we work very hard into having a crystal clear understanding of the why, and then what is the desired outcome. So, for example, on WildFit, one of the things that we work on is, first thing that we work is the exercise of, if you have a magic wand, if you were Harry Potter and you could magically change whatever, what will be the result? How will your life will be different? How your environment will be different? How your family will be different? How your work will be different? And then allow people to almost dream about that, because on my coaching, the most important part is having that clear why, because that clear why then anchors for inspiration, but also anchors for accountability, and also anchors for when the times get a little shaky and things get a little hard. Both on WellFit and on the leadership one-on-one coaching, there are moments that we are working on things that are not pleasant. There are moments that we are going deep and moving things inside of us that don't feel good. And then if you don't have that why close to hold from, that is why I saw and still see a lot of times coaches and coaching partnerships failing, because you start the coaching and you don't have that clear, and then the client struggle, and then at the end the client don't reach their goal. And one of the things that is one of my values is very easy, and I see it a lot in a lot of coaches, that put all the responsibility of the result on the client. Say, hey, it's almost like, if you're successful, it was my job. But if you fail, it was your job, your problem. Yeah. Like, if you're successful, you pay me well. But if you fail, then you screw up something that I told you. And I don't agree with that. I think that one of the things that I do with my clients is, my client's success is my success. And because my client's success is my success, I work hand to hand with them to make sure that they have all the tools to be successful. And the other one that is very important is having the minimum amount of chances to fail. And that is one of the huge problems when we when we try to improve something, or we want to try to change something, like with WildFit, with our diet, or with leadership, the way that we lead, is that we try to do it all immediately. And then what that does is increase our chances to fail. And then what happens when we fail? We feel bad. Our self-esteem go down. We start beating ourselves. Oh my God, once again I fail. I suck. This is horrible. So one of the things that we work after we have the why, then I plan the journey in almost baby steps, enough that the people that are doing the coaching with me have almost zero chances to fail. Very, very minimum chances to fail. It's almost like, do you know, or are you familiar with the analogy of the frog in the water?
Boiling water, is it?
The frog, the boiling water, and the frog.
Yeah.
I think my coaching is a little bit like that. Is instead of just throwing the frog into the boiling water and the frog just jumping out, is just start increasing the temperature so the change goes slow. And then in that way, you are actually creating lasting results, and you're actually creating transformation. Because one thing that happened with our brain, and this is very primate into our reptile brain, is if we concentrate on what we are doing wrong and what we fail, we start finding more ways to reinforce that pattern and that evidence. But if we concentrate on the thing that we are doing good, then we do the same. So with the slow improvement through the coaching programs, what we do is we start building that confidence. Oh, this week I was able to do this. This was not that hard. And then we start creating, building steps into the full transformation, to make sure that if it's in WildFeed, that they have their food freedom and their food relationship completely transformed. And then if it's in coaching on leadership and culture, that they become extraordinary leaders that can support their teams to become a team that have extraordinary results.
Beautiful. And like just listening, because not all coaches are like that. So that's actually beautiful to hear the way that you've described that. And I can tell, just from the conversation that, you're talented at what you do. So that's great. And I'd say it must be very rewarding, because I can see just from the speaking, when I see somebody coming on stage shaking to getting competent on stage, I'd say it must be very similar when you're coaching somebody and you can see them, turn into a butterfly before your eyes over a period of whatever time it takes.
It is. And it's so funny that you use the word butterfly, because one of the things that one of the analogies and the theories that I use with my clients is, I think that we all are butterflies. I just think that we are not able to see our own wings. So for me, the most rewarding thing is when I see you and I see your wings, but I know that you don't see your own wings. And then we work together, and through that process, you start discovering that you have those wings and discovering that magic inside of you. And yeah, it is one of the most rewarding things to know that you help and contribute to the transformation of somebody, and that person will be a better person, a better leader, a better soul, because it worked with you. Yeah, there is not money that can get to the level of love and satisfaction that you feel on that moment, that you are like, yep, now Roy is seeing his own wings, and now he see what I'm seeing and his potential. So yeah,
no, beautiful. Listen, it's been wonderful, it's been fantastic. How can people get in contact with you?
Well, Roy, it was a pleasure. You are an amazing host. Thank you for having me here. And if people want to get in contact with me, the two easiest ways are in my Instagram. So if you go on Instagram, at Joanna Mercado Speaks, I handle my own account, so they can, if they have even more questions, they can just send me a question there and I will reply to them. And then they can also visit my website, www.joannamercado.com. And there they can learn a little bit more about me. And there is actually a new course that I'm launching that is called 12 Ways to Live a Unicorn Life in a Unicorn Business. So if they want to learn a little more about that, that is where they can find it, joannamercado.com.
Perfect. And I'll actually put it in the description of the podcast so they can find the links for both the Instagram and your website. And your website's very interesting. It's showing all the different things that you're doing, so it's worth checking you out. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
Roy, thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
I'll just